strength, honor, discipline. You're listening to the 911 Buddy Check Project podcast. Here's your host, Daniel Mills. Time to wage war.
Hey, good afternoon, guys. This is Daniel from the 911 Buddy Check Project podcast, coming to you live, kind of. It won't be live when you're listening, but we're live now. Time is infinite, so the past is now the future, and the future is now the past. So I'm super excited about this interview. We have a comedy legend coming on today from Fire Department Chronicles, Fire Department Coffee. Super hilarious guy. If you've been on any social media platform in the last few years, you've definitely seen the Fire Department Chronicles on all social platforms. If you haven't, slap yourself, choke yourself, and go watch some of the videos because they're freaking hilarious. The man, the myth, the legend. What's up, brother? How are you?
I'm good, buddy. How are you, man?
I'm good. Just hanging out. So I really do appreciate it. We talked before, but I do appreciate you coming on. So
yeah. I appreciate you talking about time, bro. That was good, man. I thought we were going to go to some string theory stuff here in a minute. You know?
Hey, if you want to talk about string theory, all my friends know that I get way off in the weeds. They're just like, man, shut up.
That stuff has always been super interesting. In fact, I watched Terminator last night, and I was impressed with it. Like it was out of all because number 2 is obviously the best Terminator. Everything after that was kind of like, it's all right. And then I think the one before this, I was like, what is happening right now? Yeah. But this one wasn't bad at all. Have you seen it yet?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So there's the part where she talks about like how they stopped Skynets, and then that Terminator, Arnold Schwarzenegger, came back and killed John. My immediate thought was, well, how did he come back if they already stopped Skynet? Like, that doesn't make any sense unless he was sent back prior to Skynet. Even that wouldn't make sense. So this whole time thing is no one actually understands what's happening.
Well, I was fixing to say, and they're figuring out ways to actually fold time to like try to literally make time travel, whatever you want to call it, possible. But I was talking to one of my clients yesterday, and I was like, time isn't real. Like, time is a man-made thing. What we know on the the 24-hour clock, it's man-made. Yeah. Like, when you break down like dark matter and get to like string theory and all that, it's not, but that's a whole other. We've lost half the people already.
I was about to say, man, half the people right now are like, what? Why those? What?
Yeah. So, moving on, and I'm a huge Neil deGrasse Tyson fan.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever want to nerd out, his book is phenomenal. So
there's a lot of hate on that dude. We'll talk about that in a minute. There's a lot of hate.
Yeah. So he's super smart, and I'm just like, I wish I could just have like a toenail size of like your brain, because I probably wouldn't have been a fireman. I definitely would not have been a paramedic. Yeah. So, but for the people that don't know, you're a career firefighter. You run a coffee company. I just found out you run a CPR company, and we'll plug that too and just get you a whole bunch of business. You're a dad, and more importantly, you add value to the world through comedy, right? Is that kind of the gist?
Yeah, I mean, I try, man. Honestly, the comedy, all that stuff, it's truly who I am. I think that's why it comes naturally. I just who I am as a person. I like laughing. I like making fun of things. Anyone who knows me knows that I make fun of myself twice as hard as I make fun of anybody else, and I think that's the appropriate approach to the world. But yeah, man. Fire Department Coffee. I've been doing that for about 3 years now. We try to do the same thing, or what we believe is right. So we give people high quality coffee. Before, I didn't even get involved with coffee until I tried it. The original owner, Luke Schneider, he's a career firefighter up in Rockford. He contacted me. He's like, hey, we should do some stuff together. I was like, oh yeah, that's fine. Let me try your coffee first, make sure it's not crap. So try it out, and I'm like, wow, this is actually It is good coffee, man. It's solid. So, but we decided very quickly that we need to get back to the guys. So 10% of all proceeds go back to sick and injured firefighters through the Fire Department Coffee Foundation. We know that a lot of guys, a lot of foundations and stuff, they don't really put cash in hand, and that's what we do. You can't pay your mortgage that month, and hopefully we can help you out pay it, or so on and so forth. Or we support other foundations that have the same like-mindedness or morals.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a big thing with the 911 Buddy Check project. I want to put cash in your hand.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I can give you all the, the fluffy, hey, you're okay, guy. I want to be able to help you out while you're in rehab and pay your bills, and so I definitely commend y'all for that. So yeah, so y'all check out Fire Department Coffee, and of course it'll be linked in the show notes and all that with the website. And I have become, and even being from Alabama, I have become a coffee snob. I never thought I would say that. I drank some gas station coffee the other day and I had to throw it out.
Dude, I got to tell you, once you have good quality coffee, then you don't want the crap anymore. Hold on one second. I got to plug in my computer or it's going to die. You want to know what my life is like? This is it right here. I get everything ready except for the last step, and then that's pretty much it. I wasn't sure.
That's the fireman in you. Awesome.
Sorry.
But yeah, so crisis averted. So yeah, I had to toss the coffee. We keep a little miniature French press with us now. I got a little camp stove and everything, or I'll boil some water before we go on a road trip, and we'll just whip it up. I can't do cheap coffee.
I tell you, once you have good, high quality coffee, and I always judge coffee off of how strong can you make it before it becomes bitter. And obviously there's different coffees with different acidities and stuff like that. But if you make really thin coffee, I can't do that. I actually want to put together a how-to for rookies. Mainly because the other day, this guy hits me up. He's like, yo, the rookie took whole beans and put them in the filter and been trying to make coffee though. And I'm like, how is that even possible? How do you not know how to make coffee? I'm thinking I need to do a how-to for the guys.
It's millennials, man. It's going to get worse. We're going to have to start having how-to videos on how to make coffee, how to scrub toilets. It's about to get real weird.
I saw this before I made the triangles one about the different firefighters and stuff like that. That was inspired by this guy, Chris Baker. He's instructor Chris Baker, real nice guy. He made the Proby triangle, and it was coffee coffee pot, dishes, or kitchen sink, and truck. He got so much kickback from that.
Really?
Their job should not be making coffee. Shouldn't be doing dishes. Dude, shut up. Come on. You're not I can understand they shouldn't have to wash everyone's dishes, but most of the time they do because we all did that. It's 1 year of your life, and I think it humbles you. It makes you realize where you are, and whatever. So you got to. Not to mention the fact I loved that, dude. I loved it. I loved getting messed with. I loved making coffee for the boys. I loved being the guy, because that's part of getting into the business, the brotherhood thing, it's just a part of it, and people need to accept it. The problem is a lot of people walk into the job today at 20 years old, and they already have this sense of entitlement. I'm a man. I should not have to serve you. It's you're not serving me.
Yep.
You're paying your dues. It's just the way it is, man. It's okay. No one's going to hurt you. We'll always make sure that you're going to live. Make some coffee. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, I came up under when I started in 2002, I came up under all the 1960s, 1970 era, day boot wearing, legitimate, smoke eaters. The scariest day of my career is when I let the coffee run out. And it was not pretty. The coffee pot shattered. And I was called a lot of expletives, it's all out of love, but and I found out that I would make the coffee and they'd go pour it down the pot or down the drain and be like, "Rookie, why are you letting the coffee run out?" And I'd be in there like panicking. And finally, like at the fourth pot, I'd be like, "Y'all are not drinking this much coffee. Like, what the hell are y'all doing?" So, yeah, it's, I'm not in the fire service anymore, but it's going to be interesting to see when, we get towards retirement age, what it's already a lot of the departments that I've gone and talked to, and and I think that's why we're seeing and this is a very unpopular thing, but I think that's why we're seeing such a sharp upstreak in mental health issues, is because of a lot of generational differences of people coming on the job and just not being, when we came on, like you were there for service, you wanted to make a difference. And I'm not saying these don't, but I think it'll be interesting to see where it's at in a few years. So
it's going to be interesting just because you are seeing a change in the culture. I think a lot of it is a good thing. I was talking to a guy. So recently I started talking with a couple nationwide treatment facilities about creating nationwide facilities for people to go to. Because a lot of guys, they do want to talk, but for people who are having some mental health issues or some substance abuse issues, there's a lot of call numbers, but there's not a lot of facilities for them to go to in case they need to go somewhere. So I've been working with these places trying to create, do what should be done for first responders. And I was talking to this guy, and his dad is an FDNY firefighter, and he was straight. He's like, my dad would never talk about that. He said he would come home from a fire, saw a couple burned kids, and he would just lock himself in his room for a week, drink. Like, that's not the way to handle this, man.
No.
So I think the culture is moving in the right direction. There is a hug me, coddle me thing, but we have to find that like whatever the middle ground is. Humans are very good at like never finding middle ground. It's always like, you're a bunch of wussies, or shove it down so deep you'll never find it. Like there's just never, like, we cannot manage to come to the center. So hopefully we can do that soon,
And one thing that we coach on, because we do a lot of in-depth life coaching. We talk about the 4 mountains: the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. If you think about them, they're like tires on a car, and if one of them gets off balance, it throws the whole car off balance.
Yeah.
But one thing that we teach on is to be hard and firm, you have to be soft and flexible. Yeah. And a lot of people are like, those are, contradictory terms. But if you think about, he would come home after seeing dead kids, like burned up. That is not a natural thing to see. It's not okay. It sucks. We've all been there. And then not talk about it because we have to be hard. We have to be firm. Nobody can see us struggle.
Yeah.
But yet you have to learn to be soft and flexible and say, yes, I am. I hate the word tough, but yeah, I'm doing okay. But this said event is bothering me.
Yeah.
And kind of like, with your videos, and we were talking before, you bring the comedy aspect to the job. You make your Narcan videos, like I bet pissed myself watching that the first time. The different responses of the Narcan, because you're making relevant content that we all, police, fire, EMS, flight crews, even veterans can like, I get that. And you even said, so you get messages from people saying, hey, thank you.
Yeah. And that's what made me want to continue doing it. I mean, obviously I enjoy it. Like, I enjoy making the videos. They're fun. They're fun for me. And, and I, even with that Narcan video, that was something I struggled with making for a while. Cause I was like, this is funny. Me. Like, will this be funny to other people, especially people in the recovery, anything like that. And, that was, you and I talked before we started recording, how people in EMS, they're either really depressing about stuff, everything's like, screw this, screw that. straight shitting on people, volleys or people that aren't just like them. Or their humor is so inappropriate, so wildly inappropriate that they're risking their job to make the joke, So even with that Narcan video, a lot of people were like, you should have did the violent guy, the guy that gets up and beats the crap out of him. I was like, I can't do that because I'm going to paint every recovery person, every person that's on heroin as a violent person, No, you're right, man. Like humor is a gateway. That's why most of the time you'll see comedy. A lot of comedy skates that thin line of like what's appropriate versus inappropriate, and people love it, man. People love, especially if you can relate to it. And I think that's what not a lot of people have done for the firefighters or EMS is that no one's done the stuff that we find funny. And what happens is we have that moment because the best message I ever got was this guy hits me up and he's like, hey man, I want you to know, video you put out, I forget what video it was, but it was early on the videos. And he's like, the video you put out last night really helped. And I was like, what happened? He said, my crew and I went on a call, actually just apartment just north of me. They went on a call. There was a bad car accident, 2 dead kids, and a dead mom or dad. So they come back and like, dude, that's not okay. Like you just saw essentially an entire family dead. Yeah. And they said they sat down, they popped on one of my videos and they started laughing about it. And then it opened up the conversation because they were laughing and then like everyone's coming down. They're like, that really wasn't okay. And they said that particular video just happened to help them open up the conversation. That's what it's about, man. That's what all of this is about, is being able to laugh at ourselves, have a good time, but still encourage the communication portion of it.
And I think that's what you're doing is you're encouraging like open forum talks. Like I was like that creepy white guy in the bushes stalking your May mental health awareness video. I was watching the comments, and I'm just like, this is going to reach a lot of people. Like, and there was people on there like openly professing, saying, hey, I'm not okay. Yeah. And I'm sure you've done it prior to this. I've done it throughout, my career, to where you come back from a call like that and everybody goes to their separate bedrooms. Mm-hmm. And post-traumatic stress to me is just a natural physical and mental reaction to an unnatural event. And, my breakthrough moment, I got off work one morning from the helicopter, got in my car and had brain matter on my boots. Ugh. Like gray matter. Yeah. And I was looking and I texted my wife and I was like, this is not normal. This is not okay. I literally stopped and got coffee with brain matter on my boots. And I was standing in line. I kept looking at my feet and I'm like, this is not normal. Yet we never talk about the abnormal side. And that's what I love about your videos, like the Narcan stuff. Narcan is always a hot topic. It has been for years. People get their thongs in a twist, kind of like Republican and Democrat. There's no like middle ground with Narcan, but your videos, are opening the conversation about the abnormalities of this job, and people being like, this really is kind of crazy. Like this is not normal.
In so the conversation for a lot of people, and you're right, they're on both sides. They're 100% on both sides. But the conversation that I particularly, or the thing that a lot of people don't see is that, like, for us, it isn't I hate you because you keep overdosing. It's frustrating. It's like, dude, like, why are you doing this to yourself? And there's most people won't do any research into the actual like brain changes, dopamine reduction, stuff like that. Like they don't actually understand. Like most of the time, it's not even that. I met a guy who was like, I was in rehab going, I don't want to use anymore. I don't want to use anymore. I don't want to use anymore. And he was like, but my brain was like, go use, or we're never going to be happy again. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. Like it's a lot of people miss that, but it is frustrating. It's frustrating for a lot of people. It's frustrating for EMS. It's frustrating for everybody. But like there's nothing we can do about it. And like my only thing I always say to people when they get really pissed off about, I hate when they call them junkies, but I'm like,
yeah, I can't stand that term.
The difference between a heroin addict passing away from heroin and a diabetic eventually dying from their poor choices. It's just the heroin addicts' choices catch up with them much faster than the diabetics. Simple. Like, both are constant, repeated, crappy choices. That's it. Like, it is.
I'm gonna come through this camera and I'm gonna kiss you square on the mouth. So you're really talking my language when I do my substance abuse talk. I'm a recovering alcoholic, and I tell people, I said, we always judge. We call them junkies, crack kids or whatever. And I said, Pornhub is visited billions of times a day. There are people that literally cannot get off Pornhub, and when you look at how many views Pornhub has a day versus how many people in the world, somebody's got something to hide, or you can't drive past McDonald's without banging 2 McFlurries or getting a Whopper at Burger King. Like, we all have addictions. How many times do you check a phone a day? Like
100%.
Yeah.
And they all come down to dopamine release. They all come down to dopamine and serotonin release. Every time I pick up that phone and I see that more people have liked my video or shared it, I get a small release, so on and so forth. Like, that's the way it is. One of my buddies, he was like, no, when they put that needle in the arm, they make a conscious decision to roll the dice. And I threw right back at him. I was like, okay, you had sex with a woman last week. Did you wear a condom? No. What's the difference? Like that's the same thing. You made a conscious decision to have sex with that woman, and you didn't wear a condom, and she could have had HIV or hepatitis. And then you went and had sex with another woman and you didn't wear a condom. So you could have given her the disease that you just contracted. Like, everybody wants to point the finger, but they forget that we all make the same choices. Just some of our consequences are much faster than others.
Yeah, and I tell people, like, you never know what got these people to where they are. Mine started the day, or I grew up drinking and doing drugs and stuff, but the day we voted George Bush into office in 2004, ran one of the most horrific car wrecks I've ever run in my career, still to this day. It was a traumatic situation. 2 young kids lost their life. We coded this little girl, did a high angle rescue in the rain. It was like something off a backdraft, coded the entire way to the hospital. And I remember getting back and my battalion chief grabbing me by the nape of my neck. I was upset. I'd never seen it. I was 20 in 2004. 19, 20. I'd never seen anybody die. I sure had never seen the inside of somebody's chest cavity.
Yeah.
And I remember him telling me, he said, son, you have to be able to do this 15 times a day. And I was like, okay. He said, if you can't do it, I don't need you on my rig. So I got off the next morning and I started drinking, and that carried over 15 years into my career, because that's how I dealt with the stress of the job. And a lot of people do.
Yeah. Thankfully, I believe, at least in my job or in my departments, when that kind of stuff happens, if there is a possibility, they bring in CISD immediately. Because we pulled a 1-month-old out of a car or out of a burning building. Thankfully, the kid was alive. But miracle of God kind of thing. We get the kid out, and we're fired up that we just saved this kid's life, but we're also like, holy shit, man, that could have been really bad. So they immediately bring in CISD to talk to us. And you're right, man. That's the way it used to be. I remember one of our guys had something happen, and he walked into the chief's office, and the chief gave him that. Like, either you can do it or you can't. It's like, that's great. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, but great job. But then, they can't help it because that's how they were brought up. Like, don't you dare talk about your feelings. And again, I'm not, I made a speech, or I did a speech about this one time, and I said, there's nothing wrong with crying. There's nothing wrong with talking about your feelings. Yes, if you're crying 15 times a day and you can't stop crying, you need to go to therapy, and you probably shouldn't. Some people just are not meant to be firefighters. I see a dead person, and it doesn't affect me personally. I'm like, this is not okay. If I just see a standard dead person in their bed, they were cardiac arrest, they died sleeping, whatever. It is a part of my job. But if I see a 2-year-old cut in half, that's not okay.
That's not normal.
That's not normal, man. Like, you should be able to say, all right, man, that's and then talk about it, like, you know, because if I can go back and I can have somebody say to me, like, hey, bro, you're right. It's not normal. How did that make you feel? Blah, 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 blah. All right, cool. I'm probably not going to go home and drink. Probably not going to happen, you know, because now I at least had somebody justify the thoughts in my brain.
Well, when you tell people, like, no, I have these crazy thoughts too. Like when you said, you know, we'll talk about it in a minute, but you talked about in your May mental health video about fantasizing about suicide.
Yeah.
What you did was you built a bridge for people to say, oh, crap, this dude is like, and to a lot of people, I mean, you are larger than life to a lot of people. You know, I mean, you're a internet celebrity, whatever you want to call it. A social media influencer, you know, like, hashtag Snooki or New Jersey, you know, Jersey Shore or whatever. But like, you built a bridge. It's the same as like when a flight crew member says, no, hell no. Yeah, this job bothers us. Like, we see 4 and 5 flights a day of just like somebody's worst day of their life, you know, and you get off from the helicopter. You're just like, what the happened, guys? Like, you know, we were doing a crisis intervention with a police officer a couple of years ago, and I stopped him. I said, hey, man, look, stop. I said, hold on. Put a bank teller just on a mediocre call, like an overdose call. You know, a bank teller walks up, sees somebody blue, folded up, you know, with a needle in the arm. I said, what would they do? And he said, they'd freak the hell out. And I said, why don't you? And he stopped, and we had this awkward 2-minute pause, and he was like, huh, I never thought about it. I said, dude, you're just as human as that bank teller. We just lie. We have the ego, the Superman, bravado, Superwoman, to be politically correct. You know, super person, bravado, that we're subhuman, you know. And it's not, like you said, seeing a burned kid, you know, or snatching somebody out of a house fire. That is a high stress response situation, and there's no coming back from that.
Yo, I cried when we were passing the baby out because the whole place was charged with smoke. So I could see them grab the baby and start to pass it out the window, and I started to cry because I'm like, that baby's dead. And then at the time, my daughter might have been a year old. So I'm like, Jesus Christ, like, that's my daughter, and this kid is dead. I got the kid wasn't. But, you know, the reason I did that video was because people need to know that it's not. Listen, I'm 240 pounds. I'm a national level Olympic lifter. I've benched 380 pounds. I've squatted over 450 pounds. Like, I'm a big guy, you know, for what I am. But I'll tell you what, I'll be the first person to cry, because it's like, dude, that's what the world only wants to deal with: happiness and anger. Those are the only two things they want to deal with. They don't realize there's a middle place in there. You know, there's, again, what we just talked about, like, you know, sadness or you know, just not feeling okay. Those are okay things. And a lot of times, just by acknowledging, like, hey, it's okay to cry. Like, it's okay to say, like, dude, that was not okay for me to see that. You release so much of that stress just by acknowledging it in your own head, like, that wasn't okay. Let me talk about this real fast. And then I swear to God, 70% of my issues are immediately negated right there. Like, I'm good. Move forward.
It's kind of like throwing up, you know, and I tell people, if you've ever tried not to throw up, you know, and you're like, you know, like, once you throw up, you feel better. Like, crying is the most therapeutic thing, probably next to like masturbation, that you could do. You know, it's like, you know, unless you cry and masturbate at the same time, and it's like a double, like, you know. But when, like, we have this, you know, because there's, like you said, there's two divided lines of, you know, this war on effeminate, you know, behaviors of men, and then, you know, this super masculine thing, like a lot of the podcasts I listen to. And I'm like, guys, y'all are killing people. Like, you're making it specifically, and even females, but specifically with men, you know, because everybody that we provide peer support to, they always start off, I can't let nobody know this. You know, nobody can see me weak. And I'm like, dude, it gets us all, like my best friend's a Green Beret of 18 years. I had him on the podcast a few weeks ago. He deals with, it's just not, our brains are not inherently wired to see the constant, life and death that we see on top of the stress, and you talk a lot about dopamine. So we don't realize, a lot of people don't realize the effects that this job has on our dopamine levels, our serotonin levels, the oxytocin, when you're in that constant fight or flight state, but yet you're, walking around like with your leg broke, and you're like, no, bro, I'm fine. I'm good. No, hey, sit down. It's okay.
And I like what you said before, the whole, you got to be, soft to be hard kind of thing. There is a time and a place. Like if you are, if you're on a call and there's 2 dead kids and you're working them, you're doing CPR on them, that is not the time to cry. That is not the time to complain. Like if you're, oh God, and like while you're doing CPR, the whole family's gonna be like, what the, no, like that's a bad day. Like no one's gonna be there. But it's okay to like work that cardiac arrest, them to the hospital, and sit there and talk. Or, call your chief. Hey, man, and this really comes down to fire chiefs. It does come down to us to be able to open our mouths. But it really comes down because when you walk in as a brand new firefighter, you look at the guy across from you, the captain or whoever your training person is, and if that person is like, oh, you are weak if you cry, you are weak if you complain, then immediately it's just like when you're being brought up as a human. If your dad hits you every time you cry, you're never going to want to cry because you associate that with bad behavior. So that's what happens with a lot of these firefighters. It has to be immediate. It needs to be part of the recruit class. Like, it is not okay to bury stuff. Every person that has ever worked for the fire department or police department or in the military, all of those, they know that there's 2 types of people. The people that deal with it and talk about it and deal with it in a healthy manner, working out, talking, whatever it is. And then there's the people that bury it. And those are the crazy crazy people that you see at work. The ones where you're like, no one wants to work with that dude or that girl. Those are the ones that just like, they're gone. So don't become that person.
And yet we tolerate it. Like if you think about it, so I bring it up in our lecture. I'm like, how many of y'all address burnout as like a mental health issue? As we see these people who you're afraid to make sudden moves around because they're going to sling a chair. Yeah. And I've worked with some crazy violent people.
Yeah.
And you're just like, you're a ticket, like, hey, we're cool, right? Because when you come in mowing everybody down, remember, I bought you breakfast, right? I bought you a McGriddle. But we don't address the cumulative stress because, like you said, we learn all these specialties in fire and EMS, police, even the military. We'll teach high-angle rescue. We teach CPR, critical care, paramedic classes, whatever. We don't teach you what to do when your mental garbage can starts getting full. And in my lecture, I use a garbage can, and throughout the lecture, I crumple a piece of paper up, and at the end of it, I dump it out. Yeah. And that's what happened to me in 2015 after we did a flight on a 1-year-old, 98% full thickness burns, like the most horrific thing I've ever seen in my life. And, for weeks, I was a freaking train wreck, like I was like raging alcoholic, just, everything was like going wrong. And back then, even in 2015, we really weren't talking about, the insanity of this job. And that's one thing that with what you're doing and the reach that you have is so powerful, because I think I showed my wife that video last night, and I forget you've had hundreds of thousands of views on your videos. Some of them have had millions. But even you've made 2 mental health ones, correct? In it too.
Well, I made the one mental health and then I reshared it, but that thing's almost over 600,000 views. It's insane.
And dude, that's crazy. That is 600,000 people who are like, and it's like you said, because when I saw you, I was like, dude, this guy's ginormous. Like when he wants to cuddle, you cuddle. Like you're the little spoon, but because the type A bravado thing, like, but you're like, no, like I dealt with suicidal thoughts. I fantasized about it. Like when you said fantasize, I was like, I freaking love this guy. Like, you know, because even with me, I would not tell a soul when I was suicidal. You know, I wanted to die so bad. I just didn't have the balls to do it. I was afraid I wouldn't do it right and be like one of these ones that, you know, walking around like Predator with my face hanging off. Like, but, you know, when you talked in that video, so what was your culminating things? I mean, you could even see I could see you reliving those emotions in your face. You know, what was your culminating event when all that really started unfolding?
You know, I like I said in the video, I've always dealt with a little bit of, you know, like depression or whatever you'd call it. But I think it was a lot of things. It was, you know, I got in a divorce. I was in the process of a divorce. I was, you know, trying to figure financially, I was not doing as well as I was normally doing. And then I'm dealing with, you know, and then I'm going to work on top of that. And I have to put on a happy face for people, you know, because you know, we all have our moments where we're not smiling at patients, but, you know, it was just one little thing after the other. Everybody thinks of depression and suicidal thoughts as this giant boulder that falls on you, but that's not it. It's small pebbles, one at a time, and then eventually, like now you have an entire shit trash can full of stuff, right? Yeah. So it was just a bunch of events, a bunch of small things, and then once I've always told, you know, one thing a lot of people don't realize is depressing thoughts, suicidal thoughts. It's like you wake up in the morning and you think it's immediately. You're like, oh God, this would be so much better if I could just kill myself. And then you're like, no, screw that. I'm not going to do that. And it goes away. And then 3 minutes later, it's right back. And then it's just a constant cycling, and it never stops. It never stops. I don't think the thought of killing yourself is it'll make my life better. I don't want to think this thought anymore. I am so tired of seeing that dead baby. I'm so tired of hearing that guy. You know, we had a guy with a broken leg, man, and that was the worst thing ever because he's screaming, "Oh, my leg, please, please, my leg, my leg!" And like human suffering is not something we want to hear. So. Nope. It just kept going over. And then I was trying to work out, man, and I could not finish my workout. I was reeling hard, and I did, man. I sat there and I really thought about it, and it was just such a releasing thought. I was like, all right, I'll put the gun in my mouth, I'll pull the trigger, I'll blow the back of my head off, and then I'll never have to feel like this again. And it was such a like, yes feeling. And that's when I was like, all right, that's it. It's like time to seek some help. Yeah.
So what did you do? Because, I mean, in the video, you said you were laying on the floor of the gym or sitting on the floor of the gym. And it kind of, you know, so what was your course of action? Like, how did you?
I went and saw a therapist. I started talking to a therapist. I personally am more of I like spiritual therapy versus clinical therapy. Yeah, it's for me. It's a little bit better because I don't want to talk about my mom and my dad. Like my mom and my dad they were fine, they were good. But
Daddy put me in the closet.
Yeah, okay. If I ever go back to therapy, I should do that. I should be like, my father used to hit me every day.
No more wire hangers.
You drink my 2 scoops of sugar. No, but I wanted to just talk about like me. The spiritual therapy was great, man. We went through it and just really, again, the big breakthrough for me was my therapist being like, yo, everything you are feeling is okay. It's normal. Like people get depressed. Who was it? I just watched this speech. This guy was speaking at a college. He's Australian. He's a comedian. He's got dreads. But he was giving his 9 tips for living a happy life or living a good life. And one of his tips was stop chasing happiness. Happiness is not like that. It's not. You can't chase happiness. Happiness will come. Like you will have, you know, be happy with certain things. You'll also be sad with certain things. Like try to chase being content. That was whenever I was depressed at my lowest, I never was like, I want to be happy. I was like, I just want to wake up in the morning and open my eyes and be like, all right, let's go. And then, you know, and then just see how the day goes, man, you know?
Yeah,
So
we tell people, when you say I want happiness, a lot of people, there's an old Buddhist philosophy or a Buddhist story that says, this guy went and said, hey, I want happiness. And he said, remove the I, that is ego. Remove the want, that is desire. All you have is happiness, so just be. And that's what I did. I always looked at happiness like it was the Wizard of Oz. Like it's this magical place that I've never experienced, and I just want to be like walking around like everything is awesome, like wake up in the Brady Bunch or in your like.
That's why when people make fun of stupid people and they're like, that guy's so stupid, I'm like, that is the happiest guy on the face of the planet. Because if you just don't have the intellectual capacity or you don't care to worry about everything in the world, you're the happiest person in the world. Like, hey, whatever, man.
It's just free of ego and desire, Like I was talking to a client last night and they were like, hey, I can't stop these thoughts. And I was like, well, okay. I said, so you're like, I said, do you ever judge the crazy person on the street who's talking to themselves or talking out loud? And she's like, yeah, I across the street. And I said, but you do the same thing. They just say it out loud. I said, so what's the difference? And there was like this awkward pause and it was like, touche. I was like, we all do it. Like, back in December, I like ultra running. Like that's just my thing. I'm a big dude, but I just like to run. I got 3 miles into a run and I was still flying. I turned around, went home. I told my wife, I said, hey, we need to talk. I said, I'm suicidal. I said, I'm having those thoughts come back. I said, I don't know why. I told my flight nurse, I told her, and I told a friend of mine, and it sheds light on it, and people think that, we're just designed just to take all this drama. And if you look at just how crazy the world is, like we don't watch the news. Like I will not, like I've got Facebook to where I can't see the news, but first responders don't realize, and you've talked about it in some of your videos. So you wake up, you watch the news, get some good coffee, fire department coffee, hashtag. Turn on the news. It's drama. You get on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, it's drama, negativity, like hate, just constant. And then you go to work for 12, 16, 24 hours or 8 hours if you're a cop and have those little baby shifts. I wouldn't know what to do with an 8-hour job. Anyway, I'm just kidding.
I would never be a cop, so.
No, you cannot pay me. There's not enough money. But you go to work and for 24 hours, it's a freaking circus. Like, death, destruction, like some funny stuff, but even the funny stuff, because like the overdose has always bothered me, because I'd be like, man, I hate where your life is right now, because I get it. And then you just perpetuate this cycle of abuse, bad diet, bad spiritual habits, like bad lifestyle habits. You touched on it, the hypersexuality. People don't realize that is a break off of post-traumatic stress and anxiety. Like that guy that's just banging everybody, I'm like, hey man, what are you dealing with? Like, what are you chasing? Because you're about to get herpes if you don't stop. And it'll be, studied for everybody's pleasure, because you're going to have, something crazy. But, how do you break just this cycle, and I guess with your comedy, and your mindset, I would guess you have a pretty strong mindset about things, but, what are some tips that you would give people to say, look, this is all crazy, what we deal with? Like, I tell people, I'm like, dude, don't watch the news, delete all the sad, crazy people off your social media, because you volunteer for that. Right?
Exactly what you said. Like, I don't watch the news anymore just because the news, they want the most buzzworthy things. And I understand they're a business, they got to push their stuff. So that's what's going to happen. Negative things are going to be buzzworthy. It is what it is. Facebook, you have that option. Hide anyone that, listen, do you want to remain friends with your family? Because if you do, hide them on Facebook. You're going to end up hating your uncle because your uncle does this rant about Trump. And I'm like, okay. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So, but it's like, look, if you want to, happiness in general is understand, like accepting yourself as who you are. If you're that shit crazy person that has to have your cups in a specific order, and put your cups in a specific order. It is what it is. working out is huge, man. Working out is huge. That is a big thing that people, they don't take advantage of it. And it doesn't have to be what you see in the magazines. You don't have to eat a specific diet with, and work out 6 days a week. Like, I used to have a coach, and my coach gave me the best advice I think ever. He goes, dude, healthiest you'll ever truly be is lifting moderate weights 3 to 4 days a week and walking. Like brisk walking 3 to 4 days a week. You don't need a six packs. Six packs are not healthy in general.
They're not, but that's true. People don't realize that that's not a healthy anatomical thing. So
humans don't walk around with six packs under normal circumstances. Look, if you want to achieve that six pack by eating well and exercising well, great. But most people aren't willing to do that. Also, some of our bodies are different, man. I'm a big dude. Me getting a six pack, it would be very unhealthy for me.
Yeah, I'm a nutrition coach and an ACE personal trainer. I got up to 270 pounds. At 30 years old, I went to the cath lab with a LAD blockage.
Nice.
Yeah, Roll Tide. And I'm going to teach you to adopt Roll Tide. So I'm not an Alabama fan, but like if you find, get a flat tire, you just say Roll Tide. You kiss your sister, Roll Tide. Like, it pisses my wife off. But yeah, and I tell people, a lot of just firefighters, like EMTs, police officers, I'm like, meds are not the way to go. I get it. I'm very anti-psych med because it messes with the neural pathways of the brain.
And they're the only drugs that, like, you look them up and you look up reviews on them, and 8 out of 10 people are like, I gained 40 pounds on this. Also, I'm no longer producing serotonin.
I mean, it's like taking testosterone for a long time, and then your body quits producing testosterone, which you need to literally stay alive. But I tell people, I'm like, I have a medication that will reduce depression and anxiety by 70%. I said, will you take it? Yeah. What's the name of the pill? Going for a walk.
Yeah.
And I said, that is science, but people do not like the simple, I'm like, hey, the way you eat affects your mental health.
Yeah.
And I can hand them, like data and research, and they're like, nah, no, you're full of, like, you're just one of those hippies. And I'm like, no, I'm telling you, like going through a walk, going for a walk through the woods lowers depression by 70%. Getting out and volunteering in your community lowers depression. Being a service to others, and that's what. And I didn't know you were a power lifter, so obviously that's a big catalyst for you. With your mental health battle. Is the physical side and spiritual, which I loved you said that, because kind of like we talked about the 4 mountains, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And they're all kind of interrelated. They're like a circle, circle. They never stop. They go around.
Actually, one of the greatest books that I ever read, I really liked it, man. Some people might not appreciate a portion of it because it's very religious, but The 4 Agreements. Like, I loved that book. Yeah.
Yes.
Really solid book. And it was mainly because, like, the things where it was like, don't take things personally. Like that, and dude, that is a very hard thing for a lot of people. And I did a speech on that, and I was like, that person, when you walk into that restaurant and that waitress is like being shitty that day, and you're like, well, screw her, she's a bad waitress. Now, that waitress just found out that her boyfriend has been having sex with her neighbor for the last 6 months, and she got herpes from him. So, but she has to come to work so she can pay her bills. Like, don't take it personally, man. Like, try to keep life in perspective and realize that, because and everybody can do it. At least at my age, I'm 36. I can look back 10 years ago when I thought I was a full-grown adult and I knew everything. And I look back now and go, my life has changed quite a bit in the last 10 years. So like, enjoy it. Enjoy your days and have a good time. And life will always make its way right,
When I was in recovery, I read that book, and I keep it on my phone. Not the book, but the 4 Agreements. Don't take anything personal. Be impeccable with your word. You never know what somebody's battling. And even at work, I'd be like, hey, you'd look at me and be like, he's a semi-normal dude. Like I always walk around barefoot, and I do all my speeches barefooted. But other than that, people are like, I mean, he's semi-normal. But you never know, like looking at somebody. Like I grew up in a emotionally, physically abusive home. I was sexually abused as a kid. Like I had all these like prostitutes walking through my bedroom at 10 years old type life.
Yeah.
But you would look at me and be like, well, he's just being an a-hole or whatever. And I'm like, the person flipping you off in traffic could have just coded, a pediatric kid, and they're just wanting to go home and hug their kids, or, the waitress, which her boyfriend or the waiter is probably a fireman that, their significant other sleeping with, but we never know what somebody's battling. So, one thing, and I keep preaching your videos, but, you talk a lot about brotherhood, and the sisterhood of first response. Like, what are some ways, because we do a very bad job at like eating our own, when we see people struggling, and when you went through your divorce, people don't realize a divorce or a relationship breakup is one of the biggest causes of suicide and substance abuse that there is. I got Dear John'd overseas. Got that whole like, hey, we're not going to be here when you get back type thing. And I never realized, even with me, how much that messed me up. Because my fire department buddies, I came home from overseas and they were like, hey, man, so-and-so was banging your wife while you were overseas from, Station 20. And I'm just like, okay, this is not funny, guys. Like, I can laugh about it now, but I'm like, but you see
that's
how.
That's an actual event?
Oh, yeah. That's when I hit stop, we'll talk about that. But like when we see people struggling and drowning in the deep end of the pool, a lot of times, we throw rocks on people. Hey, I know you're fighting for your life. Here's your cinder block. Hold this. What are some ways? And it seems like you have a pretty healthy department, where you're at, and there is a lot of unhealthy things. And I tell people, when you know a member is going through marriage issues, you got to watch them.
Yeah, 100%, dude. I think that comes down. A lot of that comes down to maturity, and like maturity and their own mental instabilities and stuff, where they like see somebody suffering and they're like, oh yeah, like maybe I could point at them and no one will look at me anymore, kind of thing. If you see somebody suffering, you need to at least talk to them. Figure out ways to approach it. Hey man, what's going on, dude? Like, nah, I don't want to talk about it, bro. Like, maybe he doesn't want to talk about it at work because he doesn't want other people to hear it.
Right. So
hey, let's talk after work, stuff like that. If they don't want to talk, don't take it personally, but continuously ask them about it. Life itself should come down to assisting other people and removing the stigma of I'm a man, so I need to be able to repair this on my own. I need to be able to work. It doesn't make you weak to ask for help. It is hard. It is very hard to do that for a lot of times because you do feel weak when you do it. But, a lot of times just expressing yourself, being like, hey, so last week, my wife asked me for a divorce and, I'm really not okay with that. That person that you may be going to be like, yo, 2 years ago, the same thing happened to me. This is how I handled it. A lot of times people have struggled with things that they never talked about. And the second you can relate to somebody, it makes the battle a million times easier.
Yeah. I had never experienced it until my mom died. And I had some guys come after me. I was on a call at the fire department. My mom, healthy as a horse, just drops dead. My little brother did CPR on her for 45 minutes by himself. We take the engine to the hospital. We beat the ambulance up there. My family lived in the community I used to work in. Watched a medic that I've known for years on a truck that I rode on for years bring my mom in, doing CPR, and she was dead. And I did like a lot of us do, and I just went right back to work. That was my I was like, I can't miss work. I'm, just let me go back to work. And for months, I could not get my head right. You know, like watching, you know, my mom called me the night she died and I didn't answer the phone because we were busy at work, you know, and noticing, I saw the other side of it. And that's when it became personal to me, because I look back at throughout my career at the guys that I messed with, you know, and it was never like trying to just be an asshole, but, you know, I'm like, hey, your reports suck. What's wrong? Like, come on. Like, I don't give, yeah, your wife's banging somebody. Who cares? Whatever. Let's go. But then when you go through it, you're like, oh, that's how that feels. Okay. All right. Yeah. So
I saw that at AMR. One of the guys that I was working with having sex with another guy's girlfriend. And he walked in on them and he caught it. Instead of people handling it the right way, they were like, yeah, that happened. So, like, you know what happens there? You poke somebody that much, they come in and shoot you in the face. Like, that's how that happens. Like, that's how that kind of stuff happens. Like, don't be an asshole.
Yeah.
Be sympathetic to somebody. Like, dude, I am so sorry. You know, if as a supervisor, if you see that kind of activity, that needs to be handled immediately. Like, yo, you did what with this girlfriend? Okay, we need to talk about
You're
this.
done. Yeah, and that's where a lot of the, you know, the brotherhood I felt like is just going away because of stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, just 2 months after I lost my mom, my old chief, he looked at me and he said, it sounds like you're having a pity party. And I was like, whoa, I don't know what's going on up here. On top of, I run a nonprofit that deals with everybody else's stuff. I was like, you know, because I have to be like, you know, to everybody. But that's what we have to break, because that adds to the stigma. And, you know, the fire chiefs, the police chiefs, the supervisors, you know, they're like, oh, PTSD isn't real, or that's just an excuse, or, you know, you're just a turd bag, whatever.
Yeah.
So, you know, which I'm super grateful and thankful that you have a healthy system and you're helping to kind of break that, you know, like, no, man, like I sling weight around, and yeah, I'll cry with you, you know.
Exactly.
You're going to cry under me, but I'm going to cry with you, you know.
That's what it's about, man.
You know, so I try to, and just to be respectful of your time, you know, we've talked about obviously the comedy thing, and, you know, what are some of your self-care things? Obviously you work out, you know, you have a spiritual practice, but like, what are some of your personal self-care things to, if you feel like I'm just off balance, you know, what is your go-to thing?
I mean, I said to a friend of mine the other day, every once in a while I like to have a drink, but before I have a drink, if it's stress related, I go to the gym. So, because you know what, hey, if you can like have a drink and that, there's nothing wrong with that, but I always like to make sure that drink is not in relation to whatever's stressing me out. So I go to the gym, work out, try to get a nice workout routine in, and 99% of the time, by the time I'm leaving that gym, like I feel great, and I never end up having to drink. For me, it's like, pay attention to your body, pay attention to what you're feeling. Sometimes I wake up and I'm exhausted, dude. I'm so tired, and you know, and it's because I'm running 3 businesses and stuff like that. So if at 2:00 in the afternoon I have nothing planned for the next 20 minutes, take a nap. I'll take a little nap. And sometimes waking up in that makes me feel really good. You know, if I want to go like watch a movie or I do believe in God. I'm not a huge church goer, but maybe once or twice a year, go to church. Go to church. Like, I actually enjoy Catholic church, which is the opposite of what most people enjoy. I know.
I've never heard anybody say that. You're probably the first. I grew up in a Catholic family. Like, you're probably the first person I ever heard say that.
You know why? Because Catholic church to me is very monotone, and it allows me to have like a moment in my own head. So it allows me to really process things that are going on with myself. So, you know, why did I do that? Or, I mean, I like to just talk to people, dude. I love my girlfriend. We have amazing conversations, bro. Amazing conversations. And so self-care for me, dude. And the other thing is, we talked about diet, man, but bro, sometimes rewarding yourself with a steak or what, if you're a vegetarian, then whatever is good for vegetarians. Yeah, there you go. So whatever is good for eggplant parmesan, I don't know, but like
rabbit food.
Yeah. No, you know, again, like they're like whatever food you would crave, man. Like sometimes I just crave it, dude, and I'm like, this is what I'm gonna eat today, and I enjoy it. So I think in general, man, it's life and being, you know, living the happiest life is understanding that waking up content is a great thing. If I do have a bad day when I wake up, then I just deal with it. Sometimes I wake up stressed as shit, and I'm really like completely anxiety ridden, but I know that it's going to pass, and then I'll eventually be right back to where I started. And, you know, just understanding that's just, you know, work out if you can. Don't consume your life in alcohol and drugs, because that will never do anything. If you can avoid medications, attempt to avoid medication. Unless you're going to die, then, you know, like if you have AFib, you need to take your medications. You know, exactly. You know, but, you know, if you can avoid it at first, then always do it. So I think just listening to yourself, dude. Sometimes meditation is a big thing for people. You know, it's huge. I never really got into the meditation thing, but meditation for me sometimes, because it can come in different forms. One of my favorite practices, bro, for stress relieving is I get in my car, I drive, and I blast music, and I fucking sing. I sing really loud, you know, and I
just love around the river bend.
Yeah, all Disney songs, dude. That's what it is.
Let it go.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, like meditation for me is going for a walk or a run.
Exactly.
Like, you know, I can't sit there and, like, you know, lotus pose and
no.
You know, I can't do that. But yeah, you nailed it. And one thing that you said, Paul Chek, I'm sure you've heard of Paul Chek, the fitness guy. He talks about, like, your body tells you what it needs.
Yeah.
Like certain food cravings are telling you, hey, my body is deficient in something. You need to listen. Yep. And I think that's one thing that people do so bad at is not, you know, it's like they're in round 14 or Rocky and they're like, I feel great. And I'm like, you need to sit. You look like Nick Diaz. You need to sit the hell down. Like, come on, guy. Like, we're throwing in the towel.
People are like, why am I craving sugar? Because you're on a no-carb diet, you idiot. Like, your body wants carbs.
And you've been up for 4 days straight. Like, you know.
Like, dude, or people are like, I have to drink 6 gallons of water a day. No, you don't. No, you don't. If you are pissing 12 times at night, your REM sleep is no longer existent. Like, why am I so tired? You're an idiot.
Yeah. And that's what's frustrating for me. And with you being in the health and wellness world, that's what's frustrating for me as a coach.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, you're not designed to be up for 2, 3, 4 days straight.
No.
That's why you're depressed. You don't work out because you don't feel good because you're tired.
Yeah.
I was like, you're not. I was like, what you refuse to change, you choose.
Yeah.
That's one reason I came off the helicopter, because I was tired of working 24-hour shifts.
Yeah.
Staying up all night, and it was taking me days to recover. You know, especially having a terrorist of a newborn. You know, for 12 months we didn't sleep, and people don't realize, you know, not just the mental side, but the physical effects of, you know, being in a dead sleep, waking up immediately to the tones in your heart, like you're doing 120 miles an hour down the road, decoding, you know, an 80-year-old man, and then coming back trying to. It's not normal. So, you know, I tell people we have to train like athletes.
Yeah.
Like physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally to, you know, if you're going to be in this job, you can't be like, you know, Animal House, fat, drunk, and stupid all the time. Which I'm super jealous you can have one drink. If you've ever seen the movie Hangover, that's what it was like hanging out with me. I would wake up the next day and I'd be like, I said I was just having one. What the hell's this capuchin monkey doing here? Like, why does my ass hurt? Like, oh my God, you know. So I'm super jealous of that, because I never, you know, that's why I had to go vegan, because I went into liver failure because of my drinking. Jesus. And I went hard in the paint, but you know, I can never just, it's like a Pringle, you know, just can't just, once you pop, you can't stop. So
that's awesome. Man.
So if today was your last day, all right, and I always end my interviews with this, and I have to hit you with something deep. Like, you're about to hang the camera up, hang your jacket up, your boots, your helmet for the last time. and all, your entire millions of fans, are sitting there just bead-eyed, like, give us something, kind of like the Pope, like everybody's at the fire department, Vatican, waiting on, Jason to like, oh. If you were going to leave people with just one or two nuggets, two morsels of life advice, career advice, whatever, and this would be the last time that anybody, you're about to hit delete on Fire Department Chronicles Facebook page or whatever, what would be, one or two things that you would say, let me leave you with this to leave this better than I found it?
Yeah. I think life is about always appreciating the opposite sides. You would never have the yin without the yang. Darkness would mean nothing without, lights, and our life would be nothing without death. Like, always appreciate the opposite side, because even in that moment when you feel like it's really bad, there will always be an upside. So just get to that side, and everything will be worth it.
Dude, you blow my mind. It's the duality of life, the yin and the yang, the good and the bad within the good and the good within the bad.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I did not expect this out of you. I have thoroughly enjoyed this. That's why I'll always walk around barefoot. I always tell people this too shall pass, the good and the bad.
Exactly.
Like it's literally, we talk about the Lion Kings, the circle of life.
Yep.
We're all headed that way. Like it is what it is. And, if you have this horrific car crash and you go to the hospital and they find a brain tumor, was the car crash really bad?
That's a good way to think about it.
Yeah. And that's a true story. My little brother rear-ended a parked 18-wheeler. He was entrapped. Car was burning him. He was broke from his chest down. They get him to trauma bay. He lives. They find a brain tumor that led to a 22-hour brain surgery, and we still have him. So was the car wreck really bad? It's the duality of life, man. Time is infinite, the life and death and life, and nothing is good or bad. So
exactly.
You're a freaking hero, man. You're awesome. Next time I get down to South Florida, we'll go grab dinner.
Absolutely, man.
And I'll eat a salad,
That sounds great.
I'll order a steak and I'll let you eat my steak and I'll eat the salad. So,
that sounds great, buddy.
So obviously Fire Department Chronicles on Facebook, Instagram. Are you on Twitter?
No, TikTok. I'm on TikTok now.
TikTok.
So, yeah.
That's like the new thing. Gary Vaynerchuk says like TikTok is the new, that's about to be the new Facebook. Fire Department Coffee has their own pages, right?
Yes. Fire Department Coffee, Facebook, firedepartmentcoffee.com. And then if you put in Jason as a code, you'll get 15% off your order. Save you a little cash.
I'm going to put that in the show notes because I'm going to order some tonight too because I'm a coffee snob.
You'll love it. You'll love it. The spirit infused, though, I don't think you'll dabble in it, but the spirit infused does not have any actual it burns off, but it tastes like Irish whiskey or bourbon, but it does not actually have alcohol in it. It does taste good for those.
There's going to be a fire chief when he listens to this. He's going to know. So they lost me on St. Patty's Day one night at the bar, and they followed the trail of green Irish car bombs that had been regurgitated. I'd led a path, and they found me, and they're like, but yeah, there's a gas station that's got the Irish cream coffee. And it has no alcohol in it, but it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
No, I'm good in that. I've been sober 4 years. I'm not going back. So
I wouldn't,
yeah. I'm allergic to alcohol, man. I'd always break out in handcuffs and end up in jail. It's really awesome. Weird. So no. But man, I want to acknowledge you. And I try to just love on everybody and acknowledge people that are adding value to the world. You can, that's kind of one of my infamous hashtags is #add_value. And you are, dude, you're a stud. Like you are the comedic value and doing something different than what everybody else is doing. You're saying something different and no doubt you're affecting people's lives for the better. You're giving people hope and you're giving people a chance, even the people addicted to drugs or alcohol can watch your stuff and gain value and give them hope to fight another day. And I don't think that you'll ever truly know the effect and the far-reaching effect that your videos have had on, extending life. So keep doing what you're doing, man. Like it's awesome. Your videos are freaking. Last night we went down an 1.5 hour rabbit hole of going down the videos. I mean, all the way back to the National Geographic one, because I was like, where in the hell is this guy from? I was like, he's from Florida. So
most people for a long time were very confused. So
yeah, it happens. I mean, so you're a teacher, you're a firefighter, you're a paramedic, you're a leader, no doubt. You're a freaking leader, and we need more people like you. So if y'all are listening to this, if you've ever wanted to take a chance, like he did, and making funny videos or kind of stepping outside of the box, do it. All right. It's like the Nike symbol. Just do it.
Just do it. Just don't put your department name in it. That's my only piece of advice. That will get you shut down and fired. So.
I remember. So some of your first videos had your signs blurred out.
Yeah. There's a reason for that.
Yeah. So, if y'all are in the South Florida area and you need CPR teaching and all that, hit them up. Yep.
Patented comedy CPR. It's stand-up comedy, but you get the same certification as everybody else. So it's fun. It's a good time.
Is there a website? Patent?
Yeah. Just patented comedy CPR, or you LOL CPR, laugh out loud CPR. All those will come up.
That's amazing. I'm gonna have to Google that.
Yeah,
I'll come take one of your CPR classes if we, But I'm super disappointed you didn't. I told you to wear something sexy, and I guess you got.
Sorry.
I was hoping for like a red lacy negligee or something, but
I was actually going to do the whole thing naked, but I figured you didn't want to vomit. So.
Well, I mean, I don't have pants on, so I'm at a public library. I have pants on. I'm just kidding. So, look, man, super appreciate you. We'll have to do this again.
Absolutely.
Hope you have a phenomenal week. Keep doing what you're doing, and I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate the time, man.
All right, man. See ya.
See you later, dude.
You've been listening to the 911 Buddy Check Project podcast, part of the Flight Bridge Ed podcast network, setting the standard for physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health and wellness. No excuses, wage war.